All is working good. Now you notice that there's no way for us to really get rid of the keyboard. Of course, you can click here and it goes away, but I want to be able to, when I'm writing here, when we hit done or check mark the done here, we want to be able to get rid of our keyboard so we can focus on whatever else we have in there. Well, likely we can do that because we have our keyboard controller. So when is that going to happen, or when do we use this keyboard controller to hide our keyboard? Well, that's going to happen right after our submit button, or actually I should say when the submit button is clicked. So here, right after we have on done is sent, right, the email and the passwords are sent over, I can say keyboard controller and then dot hide like this. Of course, we will have to go ahead and surround with null check or replace with safe call like this, and voila. Okay. Now if we run this and I put something gibberish there and another gibberish, I'll go ahead and say login. Notice the moment we say login, this goes away, which is exactly what we want. All right, so now we're going to look at the sign up, right, logic. So let me show you what that will look like. So the sign up will be something like this. So there are a few differences, but the main thing here is that we'll have the same structure. So this is why we've set up things the way we've set up, because we want to be able to check if the user is clicking, or the user in this case is trying to log in. You notice the difference here. Actually, put this together side by side. You see here says new user sign up. They click sign up. This should show, right? And then it's going to also change to login, because in this case they can revert back to login screen. So we're going to do this real quick so that we have this option here. Now we could have created a total different screen for each one of these, but this is actually clever and the best way to do this, because then we can reuse these components or these composables and show them on the same screen. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. So inside of our reader login, because this is what we're calling our user form, and outside there, I'm just going to create a variable called show login form, and it's going to be, remember, you can use this saveable, okay, like this, and get rid of all of that. In this case, it's going to be a mutable state of, and let's give it true first. Okay, to say that in the beginning it's going to be true to show the login form. Okay, let's put this in one line there. Now inside here, before we even, at this point we're just showing the user form, but again we want to check to see if we want to show the user form or not. So I'm going to wrap all of this inside of an if statement. So if and show login form, it's a mutable state, so I'm going to say value. If it's true, then I'm going to say, of course, this it's going to be valid. I'm going to show this show user form, and that's good. Okay. And let me get rid of all of this for now because we no longer need that. Okay. We'll work later there. All right. So else, if that's another case, meaning that the show logging form is not true, that means we want to show the, I'm going to say user form, but now we're going to pass a different set of arguments. First of all, the loading, in this case I'm going to say is going to be false, right? And then its create account now is going to be true because we no longer are going to be showing the login. This is going to be create account. So user create account, it's going to be true. Okay. And then here, of course, we're going to have the same thing what we had there. So I'm going to just copy all of that. This is our trailing lambda. Okay. So here is where we're going to do the work. We're not there yet because we need to create account, say to do create FB for Firebase account like this. And in our case here, we are going to also say to do FB login. Again, FB is for Firebase, not Facebook. Very good. So we're still inside of our reader login screen. So we're still here, by the way. So what do we need to do next? Well, next we're going to create this structure here. Yes, because we want to give the users the chance to say, well, if you can't log in because you don't have an account, we can go ahead and sign up. So let's create this. Well, I'm going to go down. So right outside of our column, right? So right there, I'm going to put a row. Actually, let's start with a spacer because I want to give some space between. So modifier, I'm going to give a height of about 15 dp. Okay. And then let's add a row. So in this row here, I'm going to pass a modifier as well. So modifier, and give it padding. And it's going to be about 15 dp overall padding. And let's say horizontal arrangement. I want this to be center. And vertical alignment, going to be also center vertically as such. All right, so we are going to create this structure there. It's going to be a row because you see you have two texts. One says new user, the other one says sign up. Now I'm going to say val text here, and this text is going to contain some values depending on the situation. So you see earlier I was showing you depending where we are, all things considered, we can show sign up if we are talking about logging in, because user can say, well, I can't log in because I don't have a login, I don't have an account. In that case, I'll have to create an account, so they can go to sign up. But if they are in the login page, well, it's the same page or it is the same screen. We're just swapping things here, the logic, right? And so then they will have access to the login because they want to go back to this login because they can't, right? They already have an account. Okay, so that is the case. So I'm going to put that in a variable, the text that is. I'm going to put that inside of if statement. And I'm going to say if show login form, that value is true. Well, in that case, the text we're going to add is going to say sign up like this. Else, well, that means we're going to see login. Next, I'm going to add a text here. And I'm going to say new user like this. And I'm going to create another text that will then have our text that we passed at the top, this one. Okay, and because they have the same name, I can just remove the argument name and this works. Okay, let's pass a modifier here. I'm gonna make this first of all clickable because remember I want this to be clickable so that when they click they can go to the create account and vice versa. Okay, that's the beauty here. With a modifier, we can make anything clickable. So when this is clickable, what we want to do, we actually want to change the value of our show login form, because that is what is going to determine whether or not we want to show this or this. Does that make sense? Okay, we'll see that. So I'm going to say show login form, and remember, let's go start again. Show login form. See, this is a mutable state. We did this on purpose because we want to have that state that we can then pass it around, and then the composable is going to react, right? Recompose according to this new state. All right. So show login form, that value, we're going to toggle it, right, between true and false. So we put the exclamation point and then show login form value again. As such. So if you click it first time, it's going to, if it's sign up, it's going to change to login. If you click back, it's going to change to sign up. And while that happens, we can also check, obviously, later to see what is the value of show login. In fact, we've done that already. So we have this logic here. If this is true, the show login, then we know that we need to, log in the user. Else, we're going to show that form, but we're going to have some things that are different, and we are going to create the user. Okay, so let's pass a padding and of start of about 5 dp. So I'm going to give this padding from left to right. Give that space there. And font weight, say bold. And pass in a color, material, theme, colors, and let's say secondary variant. Okay. All right, let's see if our logic works, because we've been working for a little bit. Let's run this. Okay, there we go, our entry. And voila, this is very nice, looks good. Now if I click on sign up, aha, you see it's changed the create account. If I go back to login, then it's going to change to login. This is good, right? Because now we are in the login page per se. That means the user can log in. Right? But if they realize that, oh, I can't log in because I don't have an account, they can go ahead and sign up. And we change the button to create account, which means then whatever happens here is going to be taken for creating an account. Now, to finalize, also notice we have this text that we need to add as well, depending on the situation. So when we're creating an account, we do have this text here. Let's go ahead and add that text before we move forward. So inside of our user form, because this text is going to be attached to the user form, right? Let's go and add, so in our column here, right on top, I'm going to say if is create account is true, then the text that I'm going to show you here. Now I can add the text directly, but I can also add all of that in our resources. So I can say resource, string resource like such, and pass the ID. I'm going to say r dot strings dot, in this case, I probably have to import the R class so we have access to the resources. And let's add app name, but that's not what we want, but there it is. Let's go ahead and click, and here I'm going to actually create another string. Remember, here is the strings.xml. This is where you want to add all the strings that will be part of your application. So it's a really good idea, because then if you want, for instance, to create a different version of these strings and for different languages, it's easier to have in one place. So this is the recommended way. So I'm going to string, and then the name here is going to be, let's just say create ACT like this, and I have the text. I'm just going to say something like, please enter a valid email and password that is at least 6 characters as such. Okay. So now that I have it in our strings.xml, by the way, all of that is actually down here. If you go to resources, you go to values, you go to strings XML. So now in here, I can go ahead and get that string, which is create account, I believe. Yeah, create ACT like that. It's much easier this way and cleaner, and so I can pass a style. Well, let's actually pass a modifier here. Modifier. I'm going to give a padding around of about 4 dp. Okay, so if that's the case, this is the text we're going to show. Else, I'm just going to have a text that is empty like this. So the idea is that if we are in the create account, we're going to see this message. Otherwise, it's just going to not have anything. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and run this quick so we can see the fruits of our work. Aha, looks like we have some issues here. Looks like right here, reader log in. Yes, because we're using some of the experimental Compose UIs. So it requires us to add that as well. So I'm going to add that to the reader navigation altogether so we can see that it's added there. So that's what's needed. I'm going to go ahead and run again. Hopefully now things should work. Yes, we need to do that again, because everywhere you call a composable that require that experimental compose UI, we need to pass that along, which is a little bit annoying if you ask me, because we should just be able to call it once and be good, but that's what we have right now, so we just have to deal with it. Let's run again. Hopefully this time we should be good. Yes, we have this is what I'm talking about. All right, let's do that again. Thank you, Google. Let's add this to the main activity as such, and let's run one more time. Okay, looks like this time we should be good. And there you have it, that nice animation, and voila, good. Okay, let's see if this works. So sign up, voila, please enter a valid email and password that is at least 6 characters. I go to login and I see nothing. Now, look how wonderful this is. So you remember earlier, we actually added this form inside of a scrollable because exactly this. Depending on how things are set up, we said that this area here, we gave it a certain height. Now, the moment that we add more than what we want, or more than what this area can take, it gives us that scrollability. So this is very helpful, especially if we have more information. So now the users can scroll up and see. Of course, it looks a little tacky in our case here because it doesn't really make much sense, or it looks just terrible. But if you had more, say, more fields that you had to deal with and so forth, so you can see that this will be very helpful. Okay, so just wanted to point that one out. But yes, things are working and this is very nice. So the main idea here to take away is that we could have created different pages or different screens, but that's just necessary because we're reusing all of our composables, which is exactly what you need to be doing. You get to reuse your code so you don't have to repeat yourself, right? So this is really nice because now, depending on the situation, if I go back to my code, I will know exactly what needs to happen. Let's go to reader login screen, where we call it. Here is where the magic happens. So now, depending on the situation, whether the login form is true, that is being shown, we're going to go ahead and write the code that will log in the user. Otherwise, this person is actually wanting to create an account, so we're going to write the code to create that account. All of that using the same form. How cool is that? You should be very happy and excited because you've just created something that is very useful, and I'm happy for you. All right, thank you. I'll see you next.